Hello everybody, a very warm welcome to Zandvoort, the start of the third weekend of DTM 2024. And that is the spectacular setting for this first non-German weekend of the season as we come to the Netherlands and this wonderful circuit which was first built sort of in 1939 as a street circuit, but became a proper racetrack in 1948. Let's take a look then at some track facts. It's 4.5 kilometers long, 14 turns, and it was heavily redeveloped in 2020 with the famous banking at the end of the lap. We had a clash of the Titans here in 2001. We had 21 races here over the years, and Audi have an excellent record here with 11 victories, but Audis and Mercedes have been going at it hammer and tongs over the years. There's been this great race with Velsen versus Christian Abt, which went right down to the wire and then carried on after the start-finish line as well. Some spectacular battles. You have to be quite forceful around here to find your way through. It is not the easiest place in the world to overtake, but it is a spectacular racetrack, high-speed stuff. So as I say, it's kind of built and based around a street circuit. It was first opened in 1939 as a street race. Then 1948 it became a proper race venue, but with parts of the lap incorporating the local streets. The first corner that you can see there is called Tarzan, and there are a number of stories about why it's called Tarzan, but the one I like the best, and one which seems to be most popular, is that there was a guy nicknamed Tarzan who was a keen gardener, had an allotment, and they needed him to give up his allotment so they could have space to build the first corner. And he dug his heels in and he said, no, I won't do it. And then eventually he said, okay, I will do it. I'll let you have my allotment. You can build your racetrack here, but you've got to name a corner after me. So that was the legend of why turn one is called Tarzan. In the background there, you can see the banked turn when the circuit was redeveloped in 2020, the return of Formula One racing, and that fantastic banked section. The TV pictures don't really do it justice when you're here and you walk around it, or try and cycle around it like I did last year. It is super steep, 18 degrees, the banking there. It's a clockwise direction, and of course, as you saw from the opening shots, we are just a stone's throw from the coastal town of Zandvoort and the wonderful sand dunes all around us.
Kannst du der Anneke bitte sagen, wo die Handschuhe sind, weil ich habe gerade zwei linke mitgenommen. Brauche ich den rechten bitte?
Team radio with Thomas Preining, the driver that is coming here off the back of a race win last time out. Second in the championship behind Kelvin van der Linde. So Thomas Preining there was apparently looking for his race gloves because he got two left-hand gloves, which is suboptimal, I would say, when you're about to go into qualifying and drive a car at 260 kilometres an hour. We've got a slight delay to the start because we just had a practice session for the ADAC GT Masters, and a Lamborghini ended up in the gravel trap up at turn 7. So just a slight delay to the start, but it is due to get underway in 2 minutes' time at 2 minutes past 5, or 4 minutes' time, I should say. And a very late start to the day and an unusual weekend format for DTM this weekend. It's all because Le Mans next weekend. We've got half a dozen drivers that are racing at Le Mans and are also racing in the DTM. And the practice for Le Mans, the 24-hour race, is on Sunday, and they want to go and practice, but they also want to race in DTM. So they've jigged the schedule around, which is why this is, bizarrely, qualifying 2 ahead of qualifying 1. So this is Q2. This is going to set the grid for race 2 on Sunday. And it's because after they finish the race tomorrow, race 1, they'll head off in a plane. They'll go to Le Mans. They'll do their practice, which finishes around lunchtime. Then the plan is that they're going to get private jets back to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. And from there, get a helicopter from the airport back to the circuit here. It is going to be tight. I was speaking to Thomas Voigt, who looks after the PR for the Abt Sportsline team, because Kelvin van der Linde is one of the drivers that's going to Le Mans, his first time at Le Mans, in fact, in a week's time. And they are scheduled to land at Schiphol. This is before they get the helicopter to the circuit at 3 p.m. and the race is at 4:30 p.m. on Sunday. So it's going to be tight, and hopefully there's no weather interruptions or delays at Le Mans, because it's going to be a super busy weekend. So this is qualifying, unusually on a Friday, for Sunday's race. Tomorrow's a kind of normal day. with qualifying 1 at 10 to 10 and the race at 1:30. And then on Sunday, nothing happens until we get to the very end of the day at 4:30 p.m. when we'll have race 2. There's your championship leader then, Kelvin van der Linde, 63 points. He went from 9th to 1st in the championship with a stupendous weekend, it's easy for me to say, last time out with his first race win of the season, a podium to follow that up, but there was a win and a podium for Thomas Preining as well. They both shot up into 1st and 2nd places in the championship. Ricardo Feller in 3rd place in the championship. With his win last time out, Thomas Preining is now on 20 consecutive race finishes in the points. So 20 race finishes in the points on the trot all through last season and the first 4 races of this season. Somebody else that's done that is Ricardo Feller. They've both got exactly the same record. They've both been in the points every single race since the beginning of last season, and that consistency could well be critical in the championship this year, because we've already had 4 different race winners from 4 races and 4 different pole sitters from the first 4 qualifying sessions of the year, which means the wins and the podiums are going to be split up between the drivers this year. And if you can just have a bit better consistency, if you can have less bad days than the others around you, that might just make the difference come the end of the season. So qualifying about to get underway in less than a minute's time. Here's a view of the wonderful circuit and venue here at Zandvoort. This is just literally a 10-minute, 15-minute walk away from the circuit. This wonderful beach, lots of windsurfing here. And, well, there was none yesterday because it was pretty windy here. There had actually some tornadoes out over the sea and coming over the town. Thankfully, that's all gone away, and the weather is beautiful at the moment. It's about the same temperature we had in free practice too, 18 degrees air temperature, and the track temperature is just under 29 degrees Celsius, so pretty perfect conditions. Free practice 1, which was right at the start of the day at 9 o'clock this morning. Nicky Tim was quickest in the SSR Performance Lamborghini ahead of Max Powell in his Lamborghini, and Ricardo Feller in the Audi was 3rd. The quicker session was this afternoon, free practice 2, and Lucas Auer in the Mercedes for Team Winward was quickest ahead of Clement Schmidt. An excellent job in the new team for DTM, Dürr Motorsport, and the McLaren to be 2nd quickest in FP2. And Kelvin van der Linde was 3rd quickest. Last year, Maro Engel was a race winner on Saturday. Ricardo Feller was a race winner on the Sunday, and they were both the pole sitters 12 months ago as well. So the cars then heading out onto the track, ready for the first qualifying session of the weekend, which is actually Q2. My name's Chris Hartley, and as ever, alongside me in the commentary box here at Zandvoort, it's a very good afternoon, or almost a good evening, to Brian Oliver.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the seaside. My head's all over the place. It feels like it should be Sunday morning at the moment, but it's not. We haven't even had Quali 1 yet. But it is what it is. We're riding on board with Max Powell. Great to be here at Zandvoort, one of the absolute highlights of the DTM calendar. We've seen it very much this. What a great shot that is, by the way. We've seen this a lot this year, where the quali sessions have been fairly quiet at the start and then got very busy in the last 5 minutes or so. I get the feeling that today may be very much like that, because the track appears to be getting quicker and quicker as the day has gone on, as the sand is brushed off by the cars circulating, as more and more rubber is laid down, as the sun beating on the tarmac brings it up to temperature. So a lot of cars out on track at the moment are probably going to be doing installation laps and then coming back in. Of course, there's always that gamble, because if the drivers leave it to the last 5 minutes before they go for their hot lap, it could all come to nothing, because if somebody puts it into the gravel trap, then they will not get the lap in that they need at the end of the session. And we've seen an awful lot of cars in the gravel traps already in the various free practice sessions today. I have to tell you, those gravel traps are very deep, and once the car's in there, they don't come out very easily, and we would see a session stopped if a car does end up in the gravel trap. So drivers who do leave it late in the session are running the gauntlet somewhat. So you may get some who try and put in a banker lap early on, but it's going to be an interesting, well, 17 3/4 minutes, because the session is already 2 1/4 minutes old.
The drivers love this place, and the undulations that you get. One of my favourite spots to go and sit trackside is you take the walk out into the sand dunes and go up to the top of the circuit up at Slottermacher corner at turn 6 and watch them come over the crest of the hill and drop down into turn 7. It is super quick at the back. It's pretty narrow as well. And as Brian said, the gravel traps await. Kelvin van der Linde, the championship leader, has said ahead of the weekend, I love this place. It is a proper old school circuit. And it's like it should be. It's a track where if you make a mistake, you get punished. There's no big wide runoff tarmac areas here. One of our 6 onboard camera cars this weekend is Maximilian Power. We had a chat about Max in free practice 2 this morning, saying that his performances have been much better than the points returned so far. And he picked up 4 championship points, got involved in an accident, unfortunately for him, last time out at the Lausitz ring. They had all sorts of misfortune with pit stop timing and wheel nuts coming off for the Power Motorsport team in the first weekend at Oschersleben. But he's been quick, he's been competitive. Pretty much every time he's been in the car. He's a race winner of the DTM in very different conditions than we got today. A very wet Nürburgring last year, and this is Max's first championship season. Ian Nguyen, who alongside Thomas Preining, he's one of the Manthey EMA drivers and was on the podium at the Nürburgring 24-hour race. What there was of it a week ago, because it wasn't really a 24-hour race in the end with a huge fog delay. It was less than a third of the distance was run, but they were on the podium. But the win went to the Phoenix Racing Squad, one of the drivers for which was Ricardo Feller. So Ricardo Feller now the Nürburgring 24-hour race winner. So the fastest time that we had in free practice 2, set by Lucas Auer, was a 1:33.078. That was pretty rapid for a free practice session. They'll have the best tyres on. The cars in their best trim with their least amount of fuel and weight on board for this session, and that was a 1:33.078. But the qualifying lap record set by Maro Engel last year was only 4.5 tenths quicker than that, with a 1:32.585. Hotter track conditions a year ago, hotter air temperatures. So we'll see how it fares. Well, that's the sort of time. If we can get into the low 1:33s, probably I'd guess into the 1:32s. That's going to be when we start to get excited about times. But as you predicted, Brian, a bit like the first 2 rounds of the season, both qualifying sessions, both days, they don't really do a lot of running, most of them at least, in the first 10 minutes of the session.
Yes, just 3 cars out on track at the moment. We would make a big fuss that Sheldon van der Linde is purple and Kelvin van der Linde purple in sector 1 and 2, but at the moment, just doing what are effectively installation laps. A great angle there of turn 14, and he came out of turn 13 there, did Kelvin van der Linde, and getting a good launch out of 13, they take 14 absolutely flat out. The idea that that massive banked corner at 18 degrees effectively extends the pit straight, so the drivers can carry so much more speed along the pit straight and in towards turn 1. It's spectacular to watch. It's the best overtaking opportunity on the track, but I expect we're going to see a lot of drivers getting it wrong into Tarzan turn 1, because that's a tricky turn where they are under heavy braking. There's a big gravel trap there as well. There is a bit of a runoff area. But always spectacular, as indeed is that corner, turn 3, as Sheldon van der Linde just comes off the banking there. And that's a corner, we're looking at that earlier, drivers taking completely different lines around it. Some are going high, some are going low down the banking, some going down the middle, all exploring to find the quickest way around turn 3.
You can see the undulations on board with the 2022 champion Sheldon van der Linde as he made his way out through turn 7 and through turn 8 at the back of the circuit. You come out of turn 3, as Brian said, that's the other banked corner. It's a slow hairpin, which is taken still at 105 kilometres an hour. Second gear, come out of that as quickly as you can, get on the throttle as quick as you can, because you're not touching the brakes again until you get to the top of the hill at turn 7, flat down, first uphill and then downhill through turn 4 and 5, then back uphill you climb through turn 6 and then over a crest and then just like downhill run into turn 7, more downhill into turn 8. Oh, the Sportsline Audi pushes a bit too hard. Kelvin van der Linde there, just getting 2 wheels on the grass, and a bumpy ride for the championship leader at turn 13, which compromises his speed into turn 14 and will therefore compromise his speed onto the start of the next lap. He's still quickest for now, but that ruined the lap somewhat, and it's only a 1:34.9 anyway, ahead of his brother, Sheldon van der Linde.
I was about to say that Kelvin van der Linde is the first to pull the pin and the first driver to really turn the wick up while everybody is sat out in the pits. And his first sectors were very quick indeed, and that was where it all went wrong though. In sector 3, going wide, he did well to keep it out of the gravel trap and out of the barrier. But Kelvin, is this the replay of that moment? He'll stay as calm and collected in the car, pick it all up again to carry on his way. But it certainly compromised that lap, but it looked as though Kelvin was going to put in a fairly competitive lap time. early on, whereas everybody else sat in the pits waiting for the track to come to them a bit.
Here's a replay then. Kelvin's a bit of a downhill run through the apex there and just understeers wide, doesn't he? Two wheels through the gravel trap. There's a big bumpy run off through the grass there as well once you get out of the gravel trap. And instead of going through the banking, that last corner at 200 kilometres an hour, you would have probably knocked about 20 kilometres, 30 kilometres an hour off that speed. Top speed around here at the end of the start-finish straight is 260 kilometres an hour. There's Sheldon van der Linde, who was on the podium here last year. BMW did pretty well. We also had a podium finish, or top three qualifying rather, for Marco Wittmann last year, who won here back in the Class 1 era of DTM. When we came here last year, it was the first time DTM had been here for 5 years, and there weren't that many drivers that had raced in the DTM around here. Of course, lots of them have raced in the past here in things like the ADAC GT Masters Championship. Worth pointing out that last year there was no Jack Aitken for the Zandvoort weekend, and there was no René Rast. René was off racing in Formula E. Jack was off racing sports cars out in America, so he missed this weekend. But Jack Aitken in the Ferrari was a race winner here a few years ago in GT Masters, as we hear from Kelvin van der Linde.
One more lap after this. Come on, you go to the last lap.
Well, 133.106 is Kelvin's best lap of the session, and that is a pretty good lap. Nobody else has really gone for it yet. Sheldon's a 133.5, but these are push laps for Kelvin van der Linde. Sheldon van der Linde, though, has just set the absolute best first sector. Absolute best. There's only 3 drivers that have actually set a proper first sector, but he is 3/4 of a tenth of a second up on Kelvin's first sector time. So Sheldon looking to close the gap here to his brother. 4/10 of a second between them at the moment. That is a pretty good early benchmark from Kelvin van der Linde, who, according to the team, was happy with the car in free practice this morning. It was his teammate, Ricardo Feller, that wasn't quite as happy with his car. Not quite there, they were saying to me before we came on air. So a bit of work to do for Ricardo, but Kelvin was very convinced that he got a good car underneath him, which is why he didn't do that much running, I think, in free practice too.
No, he only did 11 laps, whereas the others, and there's another moment going off there, and almost hijacking his brother behind him as well, with all the dust being kicked up into his face. But yeah, a number of drivers this morning were doing 23+ laps, but Kelvin, he was only did the 10. He was 11 laps. He was very happy with the setup. He's not going to be happy about that, though. He's had 2 laps where he's visited the gravel trap. He's bailed out of it into the pit lane just as everybody else is coming out. So if Kelvin van der Linde wanted to steal a march on his rivals, use his tyres up and get a potential pole position time early on, well, it hasn't really worked, has it? Because those 2 errors that we've seen out on turn 13, I think his 133.106, although it's quick, I think that's going to be eclipsed fairly quickly.
And Sheldon aborted the lap and came into the pits, but it wasn't because he came up to his brother, because looking at Sheldon's second sector time, he'd lost 0.6 of a second there already. So I think he was bound for the pits anyway. As Thierry Vermeulen at the start of his second season of DTM, the home hero, the Dutch driver, coming here and hoping for a much better weekend at Zandvoort than he had in what last year was only his second weekend in the DTM. It was slightly earlier in the season last year, this event. He had 2 retirements here, but speaking to him a couple of weeks ago at the Lausitz Ring, he had a big grin on his face when I asked him about Zandvoort. He said, I cannot wait to go and race there. And he was looking pretty rapid, it has to be said, in the first free practice session. For what it's worth, this morning, 5th quickest he was. His teammate Jack Aitken was in the top 10 as well, and they both were pretty happy with the car after that first session.
There'll be a lot of Dutch fans here cheering the home man. Of course, Thierry Vermeulen, son of Raymond Vermeulen, manager of one Mr. Max Verstappen. Sadly, he's not here watching this weekend because he's got other obligations in Canada, but will no doubt be monitoring this, the qualifying session Q2 of the weekend. Our first qualifying session, get your head around that one. 8 minutes left of this session, so as suspected, nobody has really put in a competitive time apart from the van der Lindes and René Rast. But now, with 8 minutes remaining, most of the cars, all bar 2, are out on track. So now building the heat into the tyres, no tyre warmers allowed, getting the tyres into the window, the build lap, and then it'll be the push lap, and expect within the next couple of minutes to start to see the times tumbling.
We get 4 sets of new Pirelli slick tyres for this event. Some events you only get 3 sets, some circuits you get 4, and Zandvoort is one where you get 4 sets of new Pirellis. And also to bear in mind, the top 10 in the session have to start the race on the tyre on which they finished qualifying, well, not finished qualifying, but set their best lap in qualifying. So if you're in the top 10 and you've got some new tyres on, which presumably most of them will do for this session, then you've got to start the race, which will be race 2 in this case, on those same tyres, which means probably a shorter first stint, because then you'll be keen to get into the pits as early as you can in the window, potentially, to put in your new set of tyres for the second half of the race. And everybody has to use a new set of tyres in each race. So Anjan Guan looking to follow up from 2 very good qualifying performances last time out at Oschersleben. Sadly for him, the racing didn't really go according to plan. The weather certainly played its part in that, when we had that Heavens Open on the Saturday at the Lausitz ring, and they're all out on the slick tyres just after the start of the race. But in qualifying, he was mighty quick. He's been in the points in every race so far this season, but at the back end of the points, best finish of 11th so far for the Turkish driver, former Porsche Benelux champion. And qualifying-wise, last time out, he was 4th and 5th quickest, the teammate to Thomas Preining, his second season in DTM as well. Arjun Maini has just crept up to 4th place. We've got Kelvin van der Linde, Sheldon van der Linde and Rennie Rast as the top 3, going early, but they're all in the pits at the moment. Arjun Maini's had a terrific start to the year. His average qualifying was towards the back of the grid last year. This year he's averaged 7th in qualifying, and he's already scored a ton of points. After 4 races in 2023, the Indian driver had scored just 1 championship point. This year he scored 35 championship points, so it's been great for him. He wasn't entirely happy with the Mercedes after free practice 1 when I chatted with him. He said, we're missing out everywhere, really. You can't quite understand it. But in free practice 2, he was right up there, and Arjun Maini in a good place. He said to me, Brian, this morning, it's amazing. You come to a track and it changes every time you come in terms of what grip is out there, especially somewhere like this where you've got usually a lot of wind. There's the sand from the sand dunes as well. You know, you think you've got the setup, you go back to your record, you put it all on. It's the same sort of temperatures as you had perhaps last time you were here, and then it just doesn't work. The track is a living, breathing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of drivers say that the setup changes so much as the day progresses. But they certainly, most of the drivers seem to have got it dialed in, because in FP2 we had 6.5 tenths covering the entire field, which is insane. Kelvin van der Linde, we saw having a couple of wild moments, is under investigation for unsporting behaviour. I don't know what that exactly means. Maybe it was throwing gravel in his brother's face. I don't know what it was, but the steward's taking a look at that. Less than 5 minutes of this session remaining. Suddenly the heat is on. Thierry Vermeulen's gone the quickest of anybody in Sector 2, a personal best in Sector 3.
And Mirko Bortolotti has gone to the top of the times. Lucas Stoltz and Arjun Maini both had good laps as well, and the Mercedes going 3rd and 4th. But can we get Thierry Vermeulen up onto the front row of the grid in his home race, in his best ever qualifying? Can we? Not yet. 11th place. He backed it off, but the start of the lap was good. But he backed off in the last sector, which means he's going to go for it again on this lap potentially. Marco Wittmann had his best ever, not best ever, but his best qualifying of the season here last year, has improved up to 9th. The Nicky Tim, who was quickest in free practice 1, has just gone into 5th place. Right, strap yourselves in, everybody. That was the preamble. Qualifying begins now, really, with 4 minutes to go. As Max Powell is the latest to go to the top of the times in the first sector. A good start to the lap. He's 19th at the moment, but an absolute best Sector 1 for the man who you ride on board with now.
Yes, next year I think we should make all qualifying sessions 5 minutes long. Well, Kelvin van der Linde, Sheldon van der Linde, René Rast all in the pits, so they appear to be done for this qualifying session. They went early, it didn't pay off. Max Powell's left it late in the session, purple in Sector 1, a personal best in Sector 2. Great camera shot on board with Max Powell, so out towards the chicane. He'll be into turn 13. He'll want to get a really good exit from here into turn 14 using all of the banking, not the gravel, please. So up nice and high into turn 14. He'll come in a few moments out onto the pit straight. Then it's giving it everything he's got down across the line. It's Max Powell who stops the clock, and it's a new fastest time of 1:32.780.
Lovely stuff. 1:32.7 is mega. Jack Aitken was about a tenth down on him in the first sector. He's gone through Sector 2, a couple of tenths down there. So Jack is not, I don't think, going to go for a provisional pole here, but he's going to be right up there in the top 5, I would think, as long as the last sector has been good. The British driver is about to come over the start-finish line. Let's see where he goes. He's certainly going to creep up from 20th place when he comes through. And he goes 4th quickest, so 4th place for him. Thierry Vermeulen, though, his teammate, just ahead of him on the road, was quicker. And the young Dutch driver has gone 3rd quickest. Ferrari's third and fourth had all sorts of issues with their balance of performance. They were saying last time out at the Lausitz ring, it was a really disappointing weekend given the fact that there were race winners, Emil Frey and Jack Aitken, in the opening weekend at Oschersleben. But they're right back on it here. Ferrari's third and fourth quickest.
Mirko Bortolotti in that second place now, but so many drivers improving times as the track gets quicker. We're into the last 2 minutes, bar a couple of seconds of this qualifying session. It's Max Powell at the top of 132.780. There are no purples on the board at the moment. Plenty of personal best though. Lots of green times for these drivers. One of those, Mirko Bortolotti, personal best in Sector 1. Sector 2 has been less spectacular, 33.401 in Sector 2. So he's lost an awful lot of time in Sector 2. So maybe he's going to back out of it and have one more go before the clock strikes 0.
Another good first sector for Jack Aitken, 31.462. It's within a tenth of a second of the best first sector time, and it's steady through sector 2 as well. A personal best there, 33.4, but overall he's about 3/10 down on the best lap time. So it's kind of about where he is, fourth place on this lap. Meanwhile, Max Powell, whose best ever qualifying in DTM is 9th place, is on provisional pole position. Thierry Vermeulen's on for best as well. He's been 4th on the grid, but never in the top 3. So he's 3rd at the moment. What can we get from Jack Aitken then? Any improvement? No, it's another very good lap, but 4th place for Jack, 1 minute 33.046. Doesn't quite get him up onto the inside of the row. Here is the reigning champion to come next, though. The first of the two Manthey Porsches, the yellow-looking machine coming over the line now to go into the top 6 for Thomas Preining. So through he comes, and then his teammate Ayhancan Guan, the Turkish driver behind him, not as quick. He's back in 18th position. We're into the last 45 seconds. Thomas Preining tomorrow for the race will have to carry the maximum success ballast because he was the winner last time out. If you win a race, you get 20 kilograms of success ballast. 10 kilograms if you finish second, and third in a race, another 5 kilograms. That doesn't come in qualifying, only the race, and that'll be for tomorrow's race. Actually, who's going to carry success ballast in the race for which they're qualifying now? We don't know because the race hasn't happened yet. So we'll wait and find out. But Thomas Preining in a good spot there, really, in 6th place, within 3/10 of a second of the pole time. But I think that might be it, Brian. I think we might have our 5th different pole sitter and a maiden pole position in DTM for Max Powell.
Absolutely amazing. I chatted to Max Powell just before this session. I said, oh, you've had a lot of bad luck, haven't you, this year? Your results don't really reflect the pace you had. And he said, very humbly, you make your own luck. We made mistakes. He's made his own luck here, hasn't he? Pole position for Max Powell. What an amazing job. He said he was feeling confident. I said to him, are you doing a rain dance? And he said, absolutely not. I want to prove I can win in the dry as well. Well, he's in the best possible position to do that for race 2, isn't he?
Powell Motorsport are not a new team by any stretch of the imagination, but they are a new team to DTM. Fantastic effort by the family-run outfit to be on pole position. Here's Thierry Vermeulen. He'll be chuffed with that. 3rd place, his best qualifying in DTM. A driver who impressed in his debut season last year to get better and better as the year went on. As I say, he was a regular, really, in the top 10 towards the end of the season. This year hasn't started as well, so some bad luck so far this year, and neither of the Ferraris were able to be on the pace last time out. But the 21-year-old Thierry Vermeulen with his best qualifying 3rd. He likes tracks that are narrow and fast and go up and down because his best qualifying previously was at the Sachsenring. Not that dissimilar, actually, in some ways, to this circuit where he was 4th quickest. He's looking to get his best results in DTM so far. And on Sunday, he's going to start on the 2nd row of the grid. His best result came at the Sachsenring with a 5th. Can he get his first podium? So this is the grid for Sunday's race. Max Powell with a maiden DTM pole position, 1 minute 32.780 by 1/10 of a second from Mirko Bortolotti, and then Thierry Vermeulen 3rd place, 4th Jack Aitken, 5th Arjun Maini continues his excellent start to the season. Thomas Preining, the champion, 2nd in the points at the moment, is 6th, and enticingly the championship leader Kelvin van der Linde is going to be right with him in 7th place on the grid. Lucas Auer 8th, Lucas Stoltz 9th, and Ricardo Feller will be disappointed to be in 10th place. Christian Engelhardt 11th, Maro Engel, another so-so qualifying session, but he's the driver that storms through the field in the races normally, 4th in the championship, but he's only going to be 12th on the grid. It's actually 2nd best qualifying of the year so far, which tells you something. Then Luca Engstler was 13th, Marco Wittmann disappointingly in 14th, Nicky Tim fastest this morning in free practice, won only 15th place, and then Clement Schmidt, Sheldon van der Linde back in 17th, Guwen 18th, Dürr 19th, and we barely mentioned René Rast in that session, 20th. Absolutely stone last for a driver that's won it around here in the past. There's also going to be 3 points coming the way of Max Powell, so he's almost doubled his points tally with that for the season. 2 points come to Mirko Bortolotti for qualifying in second, and a point comes the way of Thierry Vermeulen for qualifying in third place. So these qualifying points really do add up come the end of the season. So Mirko Bortolotti will move on to 46 championship points, but he'll remain 5th in the standings. Right, on board then with Max Powell. This is him on his pole position lap, charging at 260 kilometers an hour on the way into turn 1, from 6th gear down to 2nd gear, 90 kilometers an hour. It's basically a big wide hairpin there. This wonderful section as you jink left then right through this S-bend section at turns 2 and 3, hovering between 140 and 185 kilometers an hour. 2nd gear, the banking through the Hoeksenhof corner, and then you accelerate, unleash from 105 kilometers an hour all the way up to about 235 kilometers an hour, coming through the left at turn 5, the right at Schlottermacher at turn 6, then over the crest, downhill into turn 7. You drop from 235 to about 165 kilometers an hour to turn 8, a 3rd gear corner here, and look nice and tidy, lets the car drift out, and then into turn 9. This is another slow 2nd gear corner, 100 kilometers an hour. You're already up to 160 by this point, and you slow it down for another 2nd gear corner, turn 10, 90 kilometers an hour. Then you really unleash the power of the Lamborghini as you charge up through the gears into sector 3, over the crest and down into the chicane now, right through Hans Ernst Bock, the left-hander, then right through turn 12, 105 kilometers an hour, and then we're heading shortly towards the banking. This is into Kumo corner at turn 13, 130 kilometers an hour, 3rd gear, on the gas, and here we go, flat out, 200 kilometers an hour already, and this is where Max Powell is about to cross the line, and this is where he put himself onto pole position for the first time, his first full season of DTM. He's been a race winner, but now he's also a pole sitter in the DTM. A wonderful session for him. So in terms of the front runners, only Mirko Bortolotti scoring 1 additional point for qualifying in the top 3. That moves him on to 47 points, but he'll be ahead of Maro Engel on the grid. He'll be ahead of Riccardo Feller and Thomas Preining and Kelvin van der Linde, the Italian, in a good opportunity then to move himself up the order. Jack Aitken will be looking to progress his championship points as well with a good qualifying session for the British driver here at Zandvoort. So we look forward to tomorrow morning, another qualifying session, and of course the race to come. Race 1 is going to be at 1:30, the qualifying session at 10 to 10 in the morning. But that was qualifying for Sunday. Hope you enjoyed our coverage from Brian Oliver and me, Chris Hartley. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.